Hello, everybody. Welcome back again. It's the Health Wealth podcast here, and we have another exciting episode coming up this week with myself and Barry. We've got some important announcements to come. We're going to talk about a few interesting subjects, and it's going to be a good one, although a reasonably short one this week. We're not going to keep it too long. Last week was a super long one. We split it into two, but it was really interesting. It was good to get into it. So, and Barry, how are you doing today?
Great, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here, and yeah, looking forward to um, getting into a couple of very interesting topics, things that have been coming out on the media and on socials that we're going to touch on, and also got a very interesting and announcement for people to get involved in that we're going to get into as well. But yep, all good. Just working away, and the course is my workout course is getting pretty much to the end of editing right now, and it's definitely a new skill set that I've started to build as we do this. It's been a good experience, but it's beginning to come together, and as you say, it's going to be exciting to get that out next year.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, good to get things moving forward and getting things happening. As you say, we yeah, definitely learn a lot of new skills. Become a jack of all trades doing this kind of thing. You've got to learn, your video editing and everything else. And yeah, it's all good skills to have. So let's jump
Absolutely.
straight into so the announcement we have is that we've decided that what we're going to do, we spoke about this a little bit before, but we're going to run a 30-day healthy eating challenge throughout the month of November. It's going to be completely free for people to join up. We're going to be getting links out, so some promo videos out about that this week where you can get signed up. And obviously, there's only about a week to go till November, but it's going to be really good, and we're going to talk about that today. It's going to be really helpful for people to do something like that. You're going to have guidance on it, and we're going to kind of just show you how easy it is to eat properly, to be healthy, and to get amazing results in just 30 days. So we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about, as you said, a couple of topics that have come up this week in the news and other places. So we're just going to touch on them first. One of which is one that I actually put a video out on my coaching channel on. I think it was Thursday or Friday. I think maybe Thursday. It was actually a video I'd already recorded to put out, and it was actually on type 2 diabetes. And funnily enough, that same day, this new study from Harvard came out, which has attempted to say that red meat raises your risk of type 2 diabetes, which, it's complete and utter nonsense. And, my video kind of touched on the subject because I was talking about what causes type 2 diabetes and how we should actually be treating it. And, obviously how we're not treating it. We're doing the complete opposite. So that came out, and it's just, ridiculous. Been a lot around it. I mean, I don't know. Did you actually see any of that, the study or the news around it, Barry?
No, it wasn't brought to my, or it didn't really come onto my radar until you'd mentioned, but it's something that I will look into. But it's funny that it actually doesn't surprise me that you mentioned the fact that it's a Harvard study, because I have watched other interviews and other sources that I use to educate myself on, and especially somebody that I actually like to follow is Jordan Peterson. I think a lot
Mm.
of his stuff is hugely beneficial. He's very knowledgeable about things that are purported that they get to try and shape people's minds and shape people's perspectives in a certain way that suits, in my opinion, the globalist agenda. And one of the things that he did mention, that I've also heard from other sources, is the fact that the quality of or the standards, if you will, that Harvard hold themselves to are deteriorated hugely in recent years because of the lack of free speech and transparency, and they're very much tied to the workings and the intentions of the globalist agenda, which is to misinform, I believe, really misinform people without any sort of scientific evidence or any statistics or any actual research. So the fact that it's come from Harvard, that doesn't surprise me, because the whole concept of having a fair and open debates about these things, about being able to bring actual scientific evidence and research and statistics to the table, is they are beginning to shut that down and only purport one angle, which is not to the benefit of society whatsoever. And in this case, it looks to be, in the case of diet, how you should eat, what is good for you, what is not good for you. And again, it doesn't surprise me that they are going after the concept that purporting the concept that red meat is bad for you, and is not conducive to long-term health, which is complete nonsense. We've all seen that the high amount of protein, the high amount of fat available is great for the human body. The fact that it's completely free of carbohydrates, the fact that it's in the most readily available form for your body to process, is bioavailability is extremely high, and the body processes the content in the protein a lot more efficiently than in any other form. So the fact that they're saying that, it comes to a little surprise to me, and I'm sure that you'll get into the structure and the basis of what they're the actual basis of what they're saying doesn't have, it's not watertight whatsoever. There's very little in the way of true data or scientific evidence to support that. They're just using the strength of their name to purport this for their own agenda, which is complete nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. You're completely right. The science of it we'll get into in a minute, but there's two things to point out on the subject, as you said, of the quality of Harvard and the lack of free speech. So two things. One is I also watched a podcast this week. I think it was Bart K, and he was speaking to a Polish lady. I think Carolina, her name was. She's really big in Poland on kind of low carb, and she was talking about her story. She was at university in Sweden, and she was doing, I can't remember if it was biochemistry, it was something along those lines. But for her what do you even call it, like her doctorate, or her, that you have to do like a study or write a paper on a certain thing, that's it.
And
hers was on the benefits of low carb, or even carnivore, zero carb, on health. And she wrote it, she presented it, and she got told by her university, change the subject of your paper to something that does not tell you to restrict carbs, or you will not be passed on your course. Basically, so they were basically telling her what she can and can't say, and that if she tries to promote low carb, she will not be getting a degree from that university. That's what she was told, which is ridiculous. But that's how it is. That's how it is in universities, and that's why all these people come out, and there's all these studies that back up this thing, because they're told that's all they can say. And so I was just finding something on my phone while you're talking there, that on the subject of them not being and not being neutral, the main guy behind this study, he's been behind a lot of studies that have pushed this same agenda, is Dr. Walter Willett. And he's been vegetarian or vegan since 1991, really pushing that agenda. He's published more than 200 papers, which are all epidemiological, which is what this one is, which, as we know, is literally fill in a questionnaire and we'll draw some conclusions from it. It's ridiculous. It's not reliable in the slightest. And he's also had very big grants and been funded by food companies, like some over 1.5 million. He's a scientific advisor to at least 7 big groups of commercial empires, and he never ever makes people aware of his conflict of interest. So, straight off the bat, as we always say, look at who's funding the research. Always follow the money. And as soon as you do that, you find, okay, this guy's at the head of it, behind it. Who's he funded by? Big food. What do they want us to do? Not eat real food and eat their processed crap. And so, oh, look, a study's found that. It's obvious that you get to that point. I mean, from a scientific level, they've come out with this study, red meat raises your risk of diabetes. Nowhere in there does it say about the scientific reasons or pathway of how that's even possible, because it's not possible. Red meat cannot raise your risk of diabetes. Diabetes is caused by too much carbohydrates, chronic raised insulin levels, and then you become insulin resistant. That's how it's caused. We know that's how it's caused. And the way to cure it is to lower carbohydrates. You don't have carbohydrates in meat. You have protein, you have fat. They will not affect your insulin in any way that could cause you to become insulin resistant. Fat has 0 insulin response. Protein has a small amount of insulin response, but it's even less if you're low carb or 0 carb. If you're high carb, it has a slightly bigger response. So there's no scientific pathway for this to even happen. Like, it's impossible. I'd love someone to explain to me, sensibly in real science, how red meat could give you diabetes. It can't. It's impossible. And then the other fact is that the study doesn't even show that red meat gives you diabetes, because it's epidemiological. And so if anyone eats McDonald's hamburgers all the time, they would be classed as a high red meat diet, but they're eating fast food. Possibly the fast food could contribute to diabetes. Who knows? If they're eating takeaway pizzas with a meat topping on, that they eat red meat. It's ridiculous. They're not looking at people eating, just steak, eggs, proper meat. They're not looking at them. They just bundle all these people together, all these really unhealthy. I mean, everyone knows all unhealthy, obese people, they're all eating takeaways that have some form of meat in, aren't they? So they're all going to be classed as, oh, they're a red meat eater. No, they're not. They're an eater of processed crap that just happens to have a tiny bit of poor quality meat in it. They're not eaters of red meat. It's ridiculous. And then you can also look at the fact that all these people who are going low carb and eating high meat, they're curing their diabetes. Kind of weird if eating red meat could give you diabetes while at the same time curing you from it. Like, it's impossible. So it's unfortunate, because it's a Harvard study. It's got Harvard associated. So a lot of people, 90% of everyday people, are going to look at that and say, oh, well, red meat causes diabetes, I'll eat less. And then, I'll come along and say, no, that's rubbish. Don't listen to that. That doesn't work. This is how diabetes happens. You're eating too much carbs and blah, blah, blah. But then they'll say, yeah, but Harvard said that, so it must be true. Yeah. And that's unfortunate, because so much rubbish comes out of places like that that's completely false, but people believe it. And that's the real battle. Like, scientifically speaking, they haven't got a leg to stand on. There's no process for red meat to give you diabetes, but unfortunately they're Harvard. And a lot of people will believe it just for that, which is sad and is a real shame. That's where the real battle is. It's not in even proving the science or getting the science out there, because the science is there. The battle is just convincing people that Harvard and doctors and researchers are just lying.
Are you ready to kick off the holiday season on a high note? This November, join us for the ultimate 30-day healthy eating challenge. Picture this, a month of delicious, nutritious meals that will not only tantalize your taste buds, but also it's going to transform your health and kickstart your weight loss journey. Here's a secret. Weight loss is 90% about what you eat and only 10% about exercise. Our challenge focuses on making healthy eating easy, so you can shed the extra pounds without the extra sweat. Imagine the awe on your friends' faces as they witness your transformation at these holiday gatherings, all thanks to the magic of mindful eating. The 30-day healthy eating challenge is where health meets happiness on your plate. Don't wait for New Year's resolutions. Kickstart your journey now and relish the joy of shedding the extra pounds this festive season. Click the link below and enroll today. Let's make this November a month of transformation, proving that nutrition is the key in your quest for a healthier, lighter you. Are you ready for the challenge? Hashtag 30-day challenge, because the journey to weight loss starts with what's on your plate.
Yeah, and as you say, they're using the strength of their name to push their own agenda, and of course they are funded by, big food, big globalist organizations who are, pushing, their products and onto us and discouraging us from eating more in a more primal way, the way that we used to eat, and the way that actually built optimal health, maintain muscle, increased mood, increased energy, productivity. There's no evidence that, as you say, there's no evidence to back up their claim that red meat is bad for you whatsoever. And if they want to do a study, it has to be absolutely controlled. It has to be a controlled, proper study across the board. Get a group of people in and actually put them on a meat only, or a predominantly red meat only diet for the same amount of time, and then measure the results after 2 or 3 weeks or a month, whatever it is, instead of just loosely picking a person from here, a person from there, handing out some questionnaires, and then we all know that these people will consume there'll be a percentage of meat that they consume, but they're also consuming a lot of other rubbish, which is obviously contributing to their insulin resistance and their weight gain. So and increase the chances of diabetes. So if they have to do a study, it has to be done it has to be done properly. It has to be very controlled. It has to be very stringent, and it's got to there has to be proper. The base of it is, it's got the fundamentals have got to be there. But yeah, that people just see the fact that it's come out of Harvard and be, oh, well, they know what they're talking about. They're very established, well, not anymore. I wouldn't trust a thing that comes out of Harvard. Complete and utter garbage. And it's all to suit and to push this degenerate agenda to make us weaker and to make us more reliant on the food companies, make us more reliant on doctors and medication, because all the money, it's all going round. They're all funding each other, and unfortunately, a lot of people will find it difficult to break out of that train of thought that they've always been invested in what huge institutions like that say, but they're not actually out to look after your best interests. It's blatantly obvious, especially when you just do a little bit of digging and a bit of research. It becomes blatantly obvious, and there's so many now, especially in the mainstream that purport garbage like that. So, but yeah, it is about influencing people, telling people that do a little bit of your own research, look at different sources. Don't automatically think that because it's come out of Harvard that it's necessarily true. But in this case, it certainly isn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's again, I can't remember who it was. I was listening to someone recently, and they said that it might have been Dr. Shafee, and he said about when a study's reported, don't ever just believe what's said in the conclusion. If you actually want to look at what you can take from a study, you need to go and look at the data, because there's a lot of studies where the data has gone against what they were looking to find, but in their conclusion, they've basically concluded that it showed their original hypothesis was correct when the data actually shows the opposite. So
something different. Yeah.
So don't just believe a conclusion. If you go and look at the data of this study, you soon see, as you say, a ton of holes appearing. But they know that, again, 90% or more than 90% of people are not bothered in looking at the data. They're not going to do that. They're just going to look at the conclusion, red meat bad for diabetes. Okay, that's in my brain. Red meat's bad for diabetes. And the funny thing is that we say about, it's a coordinated thing, a coordinated attack. The results of the research were only released on that day. I think it was Thursday. They're only released on that day, yet like every big news organization released load of articles on it on the exact day. That, tell me that's not planned. Plus, we've actually spoke about this before on the podcast. I think it was a year or so ago. There was actually a study which was done by Harvard on the carnivore diet that showed that over 90% of people were able to completely come off their diabetes medication on carnivore diet. Yet there was no big media publishing of that. That didn't make big news. They kind of forgot about it, brushed it under the rug. But the one side, you've got, it was a smaller study. Again, it's still kind of epidemiological. It's not fully controlled because it's against people's rights to fully control what they eat. They spoke to people who'd been on carnivore diets for however long and, what their results had been. So, you can't guarantee they were 100% strict on their carnivore diets, but that, even though we can't guarantee they're 100% strict, that is people eating just red meat. So that's going to give us much better indication of whether red meat causes diabetes rather than what they've done, which is a study where people are eating everything and they've just picked out red meat. So even though the carnivore diet one, you can't say 100% it guarantees it because it's still epidemiological, but it shows that the second study cannot be true, because if they were eating majority just red meat, even if they slipped off the diet a little bit here and there, they were eating majority just red meat and they cured their diabetes. So there's no way that these people eating a load of rubbish and a little bit of red meat, if they're getting diabetes, it's obvious that red meat is not the cause for their diabetes. And again, we're talking about the quality of research. And there was another podcast I listened to this week. I actually most people probably think that I've just, carnivore diet and I only listen to carnivore people and do this carnivore. But I like to listen to podcasts from people with other views as well. So I can listen and see what they're talking about, what their argument is. And I'm always open to things. Sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes I'll get 10 minutes into one and I'll just be like, this is complete rubbish. I'll turn it off. But sometimes I listen to them all. And this was reasonably interesting. He was talking about research. I think it's Dr. Christopher Gardner. He's done lots of research and stuff, but he was talking about a study they did on high carb versus low carb diets to see what the benefits are. And their conclusion they got to was that it was pretty similar results. But he talked in depth about the process and very openly talked about the fact that it was not stringent at all in what these people ate. They gave them rough guides on a low carb diet, said go eat like this. They gave the other people rough guidelines on a high carb diet, said go eat like this. They checked up on them about 3 or 4 times throughout the year. That was it, through 1 year, and then got their results. So how does that study doesn't tell you anything? I think both high carb and low carb lost weight. The low carb lost a tiny bit more, but it doesn't really tell you anything because you don't know how accurately the low carb were eating low carb, and you don't know how accurately the high carb were eating high carb. And that is the quality of research we have in the nutritional space. Again, I think it was maybe on Dr. Sean Baker. He was speaking about research, or he spoke to a really well-known, really well-respected researcher who actually said to him that basically all nutritional research is worth nothing because none of it is controlled. It's all just epidemiological, making assumptions, and it can't be trusted. And unfortunately, most people do trust it, and that's where the issues really come from. You hear things, you're like, okay. I don't know, you might be similar. I remember, years and years ago, before I kind of was awake to all of this and realized it, you'd hear studies and, the one week it's saying, eggs can give you cancer. And then a couple of weeks later, you hear a study saying, you need to eat more eggs because they're good for this. And you start thinking, I don't admit, like 1 minute chocolate causes cancer, the next minute chocolate is this amazing thing that's actually good for your health. So how can you have completely opposite coming out? And it's because it's all a load of rubbish. You can find anything, no matter what you wanted to find. Like I say, if there's been studies that have showed that chocolate's good for health. I mean, we know that chocolate's not good for health, but there's been studies that showed it, and you could find anything that you wanted, any argument you wanted to support, any hypothesis you wanted to support, you could achieve it through nutritional research because it's so easy to manipulate, because it's poor. It's just poor. You can't control it. So, I mean, I don't know if you kind of found similar when you've heard research come out and all the different things they have.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the one about eggs. That one that they showed that, you know, it's not good for you. It's going to lead to health conditions further down the line. And it's funny because, you know, especially in the last year, I've started to eat eggs almost daily, and you know, along with my transition onto intermittent fasting and a more, I would say, not extreme, but a more focused. Well, I would say a more focused version of that. Moving on to 20 hours, I've consumed eggs pretty much every day and never felt better. So no, this is exactly it. You know, the studies carry no weight, and the way they're conducted, and the fact that there's actually no true scientific data behind them. The conditions are not stringent, and they aren't done to you know, to an acceptable professional level. So they just end up coming up with all of these conclusions that just suits their agenda at the time. And this is exactly what's happening here. But yeah, there's other ones that say, oh well, the chocolate is good for you, then it's not good for you, or dark chocolate's better for you, you know, because it's got less sugar. And okay, there may be some truth to that, but yeah, it's really just to suit the environment at the time, the culture, and where they want to make the most profit, and then they'll report something on the back of a study, you know, because it sounds, you know, very professional, and it sounds like, oh well, if it's a study, then it must be it must be accurate, you know. But look at the way in which the studies were conducted; they were anything but accurate.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I could take 100 people, 50 of them who eat really healthy, but have a little bit of chocolate at the weekend, and I could have another 50 people who eat really unhealthy but don't eat chocolate. And from that study, I could say chocolate leads to good health. Because obviously the 50 that eat really healthy and a tiny bit of chocolate will be more healthy than the people that eat just junk food but no chocolate. But was it the chocolate that caused the good health? No, they just happen to eat it. And that's how all studies are. You know, it's ridiculous. You can take anything from it. It doesn't mean anything. So people really need to question that. The only things that you can trust are real life. You know, that's why I love real life anecdotes. People used to say, you know, in science and stuff, it used to be that, you know, anecdotes are just rubbish and you rely on scientific study and data, which in things that you can do controlled studies on, fine. In nutrition, you can't do a controlled study, but you can see the results of people. If there's people day after day after day after day who are curing diabetes through eating a high meat diet, then I'm going to believe that red meat does not cause diabetes, rather than some random study over here that has no controls, has terrible data, and is not stringent at all, and they could just pick out anything from it. I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to believe real life stories. And that's why they're so powerful in the nutrition space, because due to human rights, we are never, ever going to be able to do controlled studies on humans when it comes to diet, because you cannot lock people in a room and feed them only a certain food for, you know, say 6 months, and lock other people in a room and feed them a certain food for only 6 months. That's the only way you can get an accurate study, is that it needs to be controlled. So you need to know every single thing that goes in their body, every single thing that goes in the other people's body, everything they do, and measure their results. And it's against human rights to do that. So we will never have fully accurate. The only thing you can trust is real life. And, you know, if someone is curing diabetes by eating meat, that tells me, using just purely common sense, that red meat doesn't cause diabetes. So I think that's what we need to look at, is the real life stories and the anecdotes. If things are working, then there's a reason why they're working. And, you know, there is just day after day after day, I see more and more news stories of people on carnivore or on low carb who are just getting amazing health results, reversing all these health conditions, not just diabetes, loads of others. And then you have these odd studies come out, say this random thing that says the opposite. Like, no, I think I'll believe the stories and the people that are really seeing their lives changed. rather than the studies.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've seen the power of stories and people's experiences, through the podcast. Vas a couple of weeks ago, told his story about dropping, is it 5 stone, 6 stone?
I think 4 stone in 6
4,
weeks, wasn't it?
4 stone, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
4
that's
stone,
amazing.
4 stone in, almost 6, 7 weeks,
Mm.
through high protein, high fat, and very low carb, incorporating some fasting into that. So it's the stories and people's experiences that tell that show the true facts about what's actually going on when people make these changes, and not just a study that is based on a bunch of conditions that nobody who's actually reading the study ever had the chance to properly analyse before the study took place, because if they saw the conditions in which they were conducted, then it would be blatantly obvious that they're like, well, anything that you any results or analyses that come from that can't be correct, so because the foundations in which the studies are conducted are terrible. They're so vague, and it's the stories and the people's experiences that give a true reflection of what that diet can lead to, or and what foods are actually conducive to long-term health, and the foods that aren't, and that result in high inflammation in the body, insulin resistance, weight gain, things like that. So it's the stories that show the true.
Absolutely.
True facts.
And I mean, we can even just go back to human history, that regardless of whether people like it or not, for a large part of human history, we existed on mainly red meat, and diabetes was not something that existed. So if red meat caused diabetes, the diabetes would have been rife, because that was what we ate. And in fact, the earliest time you kind of see things like diabetes in a population is when you go back to the ancient Egyptians, who were the real big kind of contributors to agriculture, and the majority of their diet was wheat, and they had diabetes. They didn't eat much meat at all, and they had diabetes back then. So it's all the evidence is there. The problem is that not too many people want to really find it. But that kind of brings us on to we'll just talk about the 30-day challenge for a little bit. So it's we've gone for a 30-day healthy eating challenge, because I want to keep it open to as many people as we can, because it's really going to make a difference in people's lives, first of all. And, we want people to see the benefits. So I thought that, I don't want to make people think that they've got to go like fully carnivore or fully strict to be part of it. You can just, start to take some steps across the 30 days to improve your eating habits, the types of foods you're eating, maybe the timing of your eating. So we're just going to be guiding people with that through the 30 days, encouraging them. If people want to jump in and go complete zero carb and go carnivore, brilliant. You'll get amazing results. But if people want to kind of just ease into it and just start making some changes and see how it affects them across the 30 days and see the benefits, then that's brilliant. It's going to be, to say, it's going to run through November. 30 days, a great chance for people to start making some healthy changes before it gets to, obviously, we know December is a month full of temptation, lots of food. So, it's a great chance to start getting in shape. And just, as we said, because it's a 30-day challenge. The challenge lasts for 30 days, but the changes you make are hopefully habits that are going to become just part of your lifestyle, because that's what we encourage. If you just do a 30-day diet, then you'll get to December and you'll probably eat rubbish food and put it back on. But we're looking to start making lifestyle changes, and to understand that if you make lifestyle changes and you start to eat the right way, you can still enjoy yourself. Come Christmas Day and Christmas, if you want to go all out on Christmas Day and eat whatever you want for Christmas dinner and eat chocolates and sweets, that's fine, because the rest of the time you're eating great. And that one day, or, a day here and there throughout Christmas, is not going to massively throw you off. But when people are eating badly anyway, and then they throw in these days of eating more rubbish, it really adds up and makes a big difference. So it's just making changes and habits to your lifestyle, which is what we've both been doing. And it's so simple. So, from your point of view, you know, how have you found making the lifestyle changes and the habits? Like, how easy has it been, and how much benefit have you seen just from even, you know, little changes?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it's about. It's about making habits, changing habit and changing behaviour. Not this is a diet and this is exactly what you have to do for this amount of time. You know, which is especially relevant to those who adhere to the calorie counting and calories in, calories out, tracking
Yeah,
calories. It
I'll just
doesn't
point
work
out there's no
long
calorie
term.
counting. There will be no calorie counting involved as
No,
well. Let's just point that out. We're about getting proper nutrition. There'll be no calorie counting. Sorry, you carry on now. I just want to jump in with that.
not at all, right. It's important. No, that was an important addition to come in with, because it's not about that. You know, as we've said many times, that will get you some results in the short term, no doubt, but it's not going to be conducive to. It's not going to build the processes in your body that will enable you to burn fat, your fat stores continuously throughout the day. And it also enables you to build up some credit in your body, so that if you do want to have a couple of days like over Christmas where you want to just go all out and eat, cakes and sweets and treats and all that, you know, I'm the same, then you can do that without any worry that you're gonna put on a few pounds, or you're gonna find it really difficult to get back on track. You know, you're building that credit inside of your body. So I think it's a great opportunity. The timing's great. And also it means that you can enjoy that festive period when that comes, because you're already you put the foundations in place. You're already in a good place. Excuse me. And as you say, it's going to be done gradually. There'll be advice for the first week, then there'll be advice for week 2. There'll be advice for the third week as well, about just making sure that you listen to your body, that you develop some intuitive instincts and intuitive eating, and that you make sure that the only thing is to make sure that that if you are going to take carbs, just to keep that below a certain amount, which is by looking at the back of the pack is pretty easy to do. And you will get better at sort of assessing that with each meal, but also leaving it up to yourself to make your own decisions about when you start your eating window, when you stop your eating window, and how much you're actually eating during that time, so that you can develop that intuitiveness. So yeah, I think it's going to be it's going to be a great it's going to be a great challenge. It's going to be a great opportunity for those who participate to not only improve their health and improve results, but educate themselves in the process. So yeah, looking forward to it, and this will build towards the platform, the new platform that's going to be released next year. Yeah,
exactly. And you a great point you make there at the end is that it's part of the challenge is educating people, and throughout this challenge you're going to be educated. We're going to be the number of places are going to be limited, because we want to be able to give people the proper amount of time and attention to help them and to give them advice. So we can't just have any amount of people, because then we can't really, we want to be able to personally help you. So we're going to be personally helping people and giving you advice and teaching you. So, you're going to be not just getting health benefits from it, you're going to be being educated. And like you said, it's just about starting to build these habits and this lifestyle. As you said, again, it's reasonably flexible. We're not going to say, look, you must eat this and you must stop eating here, start eating there. You can only eat this, can't eat that. It's, we're giving guidelines, and then you start to build your lifestyle on those guidelines, because it needs to be something you can do long term. It's not just a diet. So it's going to be great. People are going to be able to get great benefit from it. I really hope that people are going to take the chance and sign up. As we say, it's completely free. There's no cost. You're not being tricked into anything. It's just completely free. We just want to really help people. And what I'm really looking forward to is seeing some really great stories at the end of the 30 days from people who've got great benefits. Because as we said, the story is the most powerful thing. So, we're talking about these ways of how, eating like this will help you, but you know, if people are going to do it for 30 days and see great benefits, that backs it up even more. And that's great for other people to see and say, oh, maybe I could do that. It's going to be really simple and straightforward. So as we said, there's going to be lots more information coming out this week for it. And we're going to be sharing links where you can sign up. As we say, we have got to limit places just so we can make it a proper experience for people, because, you know, we don't want to have it, as we said, where we can't actually help people properly. So it's going to be limited. So get signed up to it. We'll be sharing links, putting out some more promo videos through the week, and get everyone set up, ready to go on the 1st of November. And it's going to be great. And just don't think that you wouldn't be able to do it, because you could, because it's so simple. You know, my eating is so simple nowadays. You know, I'm sure yours too, Barry. I don't worry about counting stuff. I know what foods I can eat, and I just eat when I'm hungry, and I stop when I'm full. And it's so easy and so simple, and anyone can do it. So even if you just start making those gradual changes, which are going to start to improve it, it's so easy. Anyone can do it. Anyone can get benefit. So don't feel like you can't. And and I just encourage everyone to get signed up to it. And hopefully you enjoyed the other stuff we covered in the podcast this week. Thank you for being on again, Barry. I don't know, have you got any finishing thoughts, or are we pretty much covered everything?
No, I think you've covered everything. It's going to be really interesting, and it's going to really make a positive change to people's lives. And also, you know, when you do sign up, you will continue to get even more information and knowledge that we're going to share after you sign up. So you'll get access to that as well. You know, so I would highly recommend it. It's going to make a massive difference to your life, to your day-to-day life, and also it's going to make a difference to you know, your not only your habits but your spending habits as well. You know, your spending. This is what it's about as well. It's not just optimizing your health, but it's optimizing, you know, what it is that you're buying and the things that you actually don't need to buy. So there's going to be benefits all round. So you know, as Ryan says, limited amount of places. For the 1st of November, grab your spot, and we'll see you in there. Yeah,
absolutely awesome. That a great summary there. And yeah, it's going to be brilliant. There's no cost to you. You're going to get benefits to your health and possibly benefits to your finance too. There's no reason not to sign up and give it a try. So do it. Get signed up to the link, and we'll see you again next week for another episode. And let's get optimal together.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or you'd like to appear on it, then please contact us at hwpoduk@gmail.com, on our website, which is healthwealthuk.com, or on any of our social medias, which are at hwpoduk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we will see you next week.